Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Box. Today we have a special bonus episode for you produced in collaboration with FT Longitude. In this episode, our experts discuss the impact of technology, the importance of resilience, and the role of strategic partnerships. So sit back and enjoy.
In our ever-connected world, global supply chains have become the backbone of businesses. But when supply chains break down, the ripple effects can be devastating.
You can't really utilize the same principles and methodologies that were utilized 20 years ago and expect to operate in a world that is what I like to call giving us the cocktail of crisis.
The vulnerability of our global supply networks was exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. 4 years later, instability has become the new normal. So how can businesses ensure their supply chains remain resilient? Enter the technology sector.
A strong supply chain really is a competitive advantage. Who taught us that better than Apple? And Amazon completely changed the game.
But the technology sector is not invulnerable to disruption. And no matter the industry nor sector, a well-managed supply chain can be transformative.
It's what we can bring to the business by getting close to them, by understanding how they operate today. And that's so much far beyond the dollars and cents that are on an RFQ document.
I'm Sean Kearns, Director of Strategy at FT Longitude. Join me as I unpack these topics with industry experts who are at the forefront of this exciting transformation. Let's dive in. Here's Maria Villablanca, co-founder and CEO of the Future Insights Network, which unites more than 130,000 senior supply chain leaders around the world.
I'm also the host of the Transform Talks podcast, which is a podcast dedicated to having conversations with supply chain leaders across the globe around supply chain transformation.
And what exactly is on their minds?
I think it's important to note that the supply chain function has fundamentally changed because of a number of different factors. We are not only experiencing crisis from a geopolitical perspective, the pandemic, war in Ukraine, economic issues. We have a number of macro forces and mega trends that are completely throwing the whole world of business into disarray. For example, the pace of technological change, that's a huge, huge trend that we need to pay attention to. There's also the way that the whole consumer demand has completely shifted. Shopping behaviors, the way that we shop, there's issues around skills gap shortages, new generations coming into the labor force, coming into the economy. They're driving a number of fundamental changes within business that supply chain people need to get on board with.
These forces are reshaping the logistics landscape, posing significant challenges, as Kirsty O'Donoghue knows well. Kirsty is the global head of integrated sales growth for the Danish logistics service provider, Maersk.
It was only really after the pandemic that the talk of the shipping industry and how it was impacting the consumer, people were actually realising that actually where they get most of their goods from doesn't actually happen to be in the country that they actually live. And it really, at that point, it really did trigger a change in some mindsets in some businesses. Supply chain became very much a topic that was within at the board level because it was impacting so greatly at that particular moment.
Supply chain now has a seat at the table. I'm seeing that a lot more in commercial decision making. I'm seeing supply chain as a value driver within organizations. Businesses will now be fully integrating supply chain into their core business operations and understand that supply chain drives value. The business of the future, the business of today, will live or die by the strength of their supply chain.
The problem is consumers continue to expect consistency and reliability in spite of global instability. Businesses must quickly adapt to meet these expectations, no matter what challenges arise.
There's so many different things that are affecting us all at once that we can't keep burying our head in the sand. You're going to have to implement processes that are going to help you withstand the crisis ahead.
We really are seeing that disruption is the new normal, and the most successful businesses that we engage with have continuously challenged themselves on a what-if scenario. What if a major corridor closes down? What if, a river runs dry and we need to get another option? What if? And then having the contingency and the backup plans ready to go and to implement as and when these scenarios do and happen. When it comes to backup, you absolutely need to investigate all options when it comes to the supply chain. When it comes to your production, your manufacturers, your factories, does it make sense to have them all in one particular location? A lot of brands today are multi-sourcing, so they've now kind of reduced the risk by having manufacturing from different areas. People are considering near sourcing, so they're not as reliant on extended transportation models.
So what does this mean for supply chains in the technology sector? A sector that has traditionally been known as disruptor of industry and business as usual.
I'm going to give you a secret there. There is no silver bullet when you talk about resilience.
Meet Mourad Tamoud of Schneider Electric, a multinational tech company specializing in digital automation and energy management.
I'm Mourad Tamoud. I'm the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Schneider Electric.
The company operates in over 100 countries with more than 1 million partners. And when it comes to supply chain resilience, the emphasis is on flexibility and adaptability.
It's certainly a set of things that you need to build, step by step. You mentioned, dual sourcing. We call also power of two, having two factories able to produce the same offer. Regionalization, being closer to the market that you're serving. Shortening your supply chains. The longer they are, the more fragile they are. Working very closely with your suppliers and building partnerships with them where you engage with long-term supply agreements, sharing much more of your strategy and their strategy and understanding how these two are matching together. So it's a full set of things and really talking about resilience and building resilience as a part, like you review quality, like you review, your productivity. Having dedicated system of management about resilience is certainly one of the key.
Indeed, in a business landscape that faces so much ongoing disruption and economic volatility, supply chain resilience will prove make or break for organizations. As Maria Villablanca explains,
change is going to be thrust upon us whether we like it or not. And really those companies that are going to thrive in an era of constant disruption and crisis are going to be those companies that embrace the ability to drive innovation, to understand that the times they are a-changing and that this is not your granddad's supply chain anymore.
The need for innovation in logistics is more pressing than ever. It is why, as Mourad agrees, that the importance of strategic partnerships cannot be overstated.
The performance of your supply chain is the performance of your partners, basically, whether it is in sustainability, whether it is in quality, in deliveries, etc., and resilience. The way to build that is to build the trust through long-term engagement. When I say long-term engagement is tactically, you are not just shopping around, you are really committing to each other, the supplier to you and you to the supplier.
According to research by Maersk, the majority of businesses find that collaborative partnerships are essential to resolving long-term supply chain problems. Here is Maersk's Kirsty O'Donoghue to explain.
The most successful strategic account teams that we have within the business today are those who you could barely distinguish them as a Maersk employee or them as their advocate for their customer, because they are so close and intimate with the day-to-day operation, the processes, with the key stakeholders across the businesses. And then that allows them to take all of this information, understand, end to end how that supply chain looks, bring in the right people and the right teams to be able to then enhance, build efficiencies and optimise that business for the future. It is a relationship and it takes investment from both parties to make it work and to make it work successfully. But when it does, it is magical. And then, these relationships then tend to last for quite a long period of time because you now recognise the return on investment that you get by that partnership approach.
By using the combined strengths of their partners and suppliers, businesses can find new ways to thrive in an unpredictable world. But this alone will not be enough to stay ahead.
It's not about being resilient to chaos because that implies that you just go back to maybe what you had in the past. This is about evolution, right? It's about the ability to thrive or adapt to crisis. And so there are a number of tools available to supply chain leaders, to business leaders, to try to build that kind of anti-fragility movement. They involve, of course, technology.
And the most powerful technology by far is artificial intelligence, offering new levels of efficiency, precision, and innovation.
AI is not new. It's been around a long time, but the conversation around generative AI and machine learning in the supply chain is a relatively new topic because most people are either in the early adopter stage or really they're just having that conversation.
When it comes to warehousing and transportation, AI automation, you can go into some of these warehouses and it's like something from the future. You've got robots, you've got automated forklift trucks, you've got drones. It makes the warehousing aspect far more efficient, far more safety relevant, and really, really helps along with the inventory management and those sort of things. It can help so much with various elements that do impact the supply chain. We can use it for demand forecasting, which you're using the data to look at previous sales information, market trends, the seasonality. That helps you then plan according to, what the AI is telling you in terms of the needs. That can help you with the route optimization. So again, not only in scenarios whereby the situation is as it should be, AI will use historic information to book according to that, but then will be agile enough to identify if there has been any disruption and give you the opportunity to make a decision to pivot from that.
This agility is vital for the technology sector, where products often have short development cycles and frequent updates, with fierce competition to be first to market. Mourad explains just how important AI can be in this context.
In supply chain like ours, with the width of the network that we are managing, you're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of data every day. It's about insights coming from our products, from our processes, the exchange of information with our customers, with our suppliers, the ability to plug into those informations, bringing those data to the relevant level and extracting insight from those is absolutely critical. And I think, once again, during the last 4 years, we have learned that our ability to run those data through end-to-end control towers. We have established a system of 7 control towers that are interconnecting our entire footprint, that are able to, as I was mentioning, identify the disruptions, be it a disruption in a port, be it a natural disaster, a late shipment, and reacting to that in order to provide the best response. And what we see is that we are able now to leverage all the insight coming from those digital data to automate them and automate the decisions associated, which brings not only the quality of the response, but also the speed of the response. And you can imagine that once we plug on top of that, on top of analytics, the AI engine to that I would say demultiply the power of our ability.
There's no doubt about it. AI is here to stay. But that doesn't mean we can step back entirely. Human involvement remains critical to harness its potential.
No matter how advanced the technology is becoming, it's all about the people at the ground level that are the primary user of those technologies, that they need to embrace it, they need to understand how it's empowering them.
For many, retraining or upskilling will be essential. And with an estimated 450 million people working in global supply chains, that's no small feat.
This is going to be a shift change, and we adapt, and we need our workforce to adapt. It's the openness to learning and that openness to adapting that will make the difference. And then there's the standard skill sets, being able to problem solve, being able to communicate, to collaborate. All of these aspects make a difference because it's a complementary need along with AI. We still have the human expertise need to complement the data information that AI can bring to us.
The way we see it is we'd like first to keep human in the loop, making sure that the machine is reacting the right way and providing the suggestions, etc. But we know also that there will be processes and there will be operations where the human will be on top of the loop and the system will be running. And when actions are repetitive, etc., that's where AI and analytics are the best solution to respond.
The results of this approach speak for themselves.
I can give you an example that, for example, last year, we had 80% of our customer requests for information on delivery were automatically processed and supported through automated control towers that we have implemented. That improves the quality and the reliability of the information that we are providing to the customers. And I have to say, it makes also the job of our people much more interesting, removing those repetitive and more mechanical types of operation out of the supply chain.
In short, AI will be a game changer for global supply chains, including the people behind them.
AI is going to enable better resilience, better visibility, better transparency, and it will help release the tension that we have with the burnout of people in supply chain. So that way we can dedicate time to actually solving these major problems like dealing with climate change and sustainability.
Of course, the biggest risk on the horizon is climate change, which means resilience and decarbonisation go hand in hand. Currently, supply chains account for 60% of GHG emissions, which makes them essential targets for decarbonisation. Transforming these networks is crucial for any company striving to reach net zero. Unfortunately, Maersk research shows that only half of businesses position their supply chain and logistics as a key part of their decarbonisation strategy. That's clearly a missed opportunity, but not for Schneider Electric.
We were very early at understanding the importance of sustainability in a modern supply chain. And just to give you a reference, 70%, between 70 and 75% of our CO2 emissions are coming from our Scope 3, so from our supply chain and our suppliers. So for us, it was pretty natural to embark our partners in the journey of decarbonization.
In 2020, Schneider Electric launched the Zero Carbon Project, a major initiative to galvanize 1,000 of its most strategic upstream supply chain partners and support them in their efforts to decarbonize. The goal? To halve their operational GHG emissions by 2025.
We committed together that we would divide by 2 their carbon emission on the course of the program. And we were there to provide them with the support, providing them with the tools, providing them with the approach that was needed to address that. First, measuring, starting by implementing the right measurement of your emissions. So we created platforms. We created a NEO platform, a website where all the vendors were able to access material, access tools. They were also able to share best practices among this ecosystem of vendors. And I have to say that the feedback from all of them is very, very positive, and we are on track with our ambition to deliver that by the end of 2025. So very excited by the journey. We are also looking at how to extend in the future and go deeper, looking at tier 2 and tier 3, also understanding beyond the 1,000 vendors how much more suppliers we would like to touch with the program.
The Zero Carbon Project shows how important it is to think about logistics more broadly and create supply chains that are driven by purpose, not simply cost.
I think if we focus heavily on cost-driven supply chains, we miss the risk that is the next thing coming down the line, which is unpredictable. And as such, it's got to be less about the it or the what, and more about making sure that you map your supply chain for risk, that you prepare for the next eventual issue. So building transparency, building supply chain visibility across multiple tiers. We also need to move away from this thinking of supply chain as a linear thing to more of an ecosystem, a living, breathing ecosystem with multiple moving parts and the complexity that offers as well.
The lesson here? It's time for supply chains to play a more strategic and influential role to help businesses navigate the challenges ahead.
Businesses should consider supply chain and logistics as something far more strategic than the majority of them do today. As a business, I think it's very important that from an executive level that you take action, that you are aware and you get actively involved and sponsor, across the departments that we should be engaging with your logistics or service provider. You should be coming to the table with how your role impacts or could be impacted by decisions made from procurement, from finance, because they all interlink.
As we look to the future, the potential for positive impact through supply chain advancements is immense. Because this sector isn't just about logistics, it's about the way we live, work, and connect on a global scale.
There's so much innovation happening in supply chain. There's so much ability to change the world. I mean, if we look back at the last couple of years, supply chain literally kept the world moving when everything was down. And so if you want to be part of a place where you can change the world, work in supply chain. If you want to be part of where the biggest innovation is being driven, work in supply chain. If you want to go to the moon, if you want to go to Mars, work in supply chain. So I think we need to do much better at vocalizing the tremendous opportunities that lie within supply chain and bring the brightest minds to it.
I'm Sean Kearns. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Box Bonus, brought to you in partnership with FT Longitude. We'll be back with a regular episode very soon. To make sure you don't miss it, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen.